Hey guys, Drifter here. I just got back from watching Avengers Endgame, and I wanted to share my opinion on the movie with you in the form of this review. It is the cinematic event of the decade. It is the biggest movie that you are likely to see for a very, very long time, so I wanted to share my thoughts and maybe convince some of you to see it or not see it based on these opinions. The gameplay that you see around me is, of course, Fortnite's Avengers Endgame mode, which is a beefier modification of the Thanos mode that came out about a year ago. I just had to play it. It's fun, it's thematic, it fits, and we're doing Thanos first. And the review is structured in two parts today. The first part is spoiler-free. I have opinions and some very general sort of facts about the movie, and I'll offer advice and stuff like that on whether you want to see it based on taste, but it has no actual spoilers for the film. The second and significantly longer part definitely has spoilers, lots of spoilers, metric tons of spoilers. So when we hit that part, if you haven't seen the movie, if you don't want spoilers or whatever, just turn the video off and don't worry about it, okay? So to start off with, spoiler-free on part one, I think that Avengers Endgame is a good superhero movie and that most people will enjoy it. It's a good movie in general, as well it should be, as most Marvel movies are quality films, and they're structured in a way for mass audiences to enjoy. It is, however, not the movie that I was expecting. I was expecting Avengers Endgame to be a really straightforward, slugging it out, big boss battle where we go hunt down Thanos and everybody shows their true strength and they have those anime power-up moments and it's dark and grimy and brutal and all that. That really wasn't the movie. I was really expecting like a harsh, dark tone for the ending of MCU Phase 3 with maybe like a little up note on the end. Nope, didn't get that at all. Avengers Endgame was totally different than what I was expecting coming off of Infinity War, and the trailer was very deceptive as well. The trailer makes you think you're getting into one thing, and the movie will treat you to something entirely different. So whatever you think you know about the movie, whatever your predictions are, they're almost certainly going to be wrong. On an objective sense, the movie is well acted. Of course, all the actors are talented actors, from the main set to the supporting cast to the cameos to everybody. Very, very well acted. It was very well filmed. It had good color palettes. It had good, cinematography and good camera angles, that sort of stuff. The CGI and the effects were good. We don't have to worry about any of the uncomfortable, awkward, like DC CGI effects that showed up a little bit in Shazam and Batman vs. Superman and stuff like that. Very good quality effects. Marvel's always been good about that. And the writing was overall good. The writing would probably be the weaker part of the film. But I don't want you to think that Avengers Endgame is a masterpiece of cinema. This isn't going to be a greatest movie of all time. This probably isn't going to be an IMDb top 50 most likely. It's not a masterpiece, okay? I can't sit here and tell you, as much as fun as the movie was to watch, I can't tell you it was the best movie I've ever seen, because that's a lie. I'm picky about movies. I'm picky about movies that I'm willing to say are of the best, right? So sue me if you disagree, but that doesn't mean that Avengers Endgame wasn't enjoyable. Endgame was rather enjoyable. I had a lot of fun watching this movie, so did my wife. Judging by the reactions in the theater, most people had fun with it. So even though it's probably not going to win Oscars, except for maybe CG, very fun movie, very much so worth watching. The movie is over 3 hours long, which is insane for a superhero blockbuster. Blockbuster films are typically in the hour and a half, and more recently in the 2-hour range, so that they can show them a whole bunch of times in a day, and because little kids don't have attention spans for all that. In that 3 hours, there really isn't much downtime either, so drinking a whole lot of water at the theater is not a smart choice, because I guarantee you that any time you get up to go pee is going to be a bad time. It's constantly going and delivering for that 3 hours with very, very few down notes or slow moments, and when those slow moments do occur, they don't last very long. Every character does get their moment in the spotlight, including some surprising ones. And in general, this surprises me because the cast is huge. So making sure that everybody has a moment and a point and lines and, things to do is a compliment to the writing staff, because I know how difficult that can get with big ensemble films, and there are some surprising spotlights and some surprising moments as well. The focus of the narrative drama is on different characters than I expected as well. I expected certain characters to really be the heart of the film and to go forward and carry this movie and do various things, but the reality was quite different. The focus was on a different set than what I was expecting going in, or based on the trailer. And speaking of that trailer, and coming in from Infinity War, tonally speaking, the movie was not grimdark like I expected it to be. I thought this movie was going to be the Warhammer 40K of superhero films, but still technically PG-13. I thought this movie was going to just take all that negativity from Infinity War and ramp it up and just sort of crush my soul at the end. And, I was expecting a really big dramatic piece, so I kind of had this wall built up around my heart. I was ready for some big like, gut punch kind of moments. But Endgame wasn't that film overall, at least not in my opinion. In my opinion, Infinity War was a much heavier hitting movie than Endgame. And Endgame had a surprising amount of humor throughout the film, even by Marvel standards, which the Marvel movies are increasingly relying on humor as they move forward throughout the series. You can see this with Guardians of the Galaxy and with Avengers Infinity War, but Avengers Endgame was probably more funny than anything else, surprisingly, though it does have dramatic moments. And it also had more four-letter words than typical Marvel standards. Not the F word, I guess, spoiler, nobody says the F word. I thought they would just sneak one in, but they had a lot of other four-letter words, a lot more than what you would typically see in these kind of films. So at this point of the movie, I've offered just about all of the opinions that I can offer without spoilers. Anything else that I tell you has to inherently have some kind of spoilers in it. So this is the end of the spoiler-free section of the review. All discussion moving forward has a metric ton of spoilers. If you don't want to see spoilers, do not watch this part of the video. Please turn it off. Also, I just generally wouldn't recommend reading YouTube comments for the next week. Okay, so spoiler time. The story picks up 5 years after Thanos does his snap and half the people around the world, not just on Earth, but around the galaxy disappear. Half of life in general. And I was kind of surprised. I thought the story would pick up like immediately after the end of Infinity War, and we're getting the band back together and we're going to go kick Thanos' big purple butt back across the galaxy. Nope, this picks up 5 years later. Everybody's still dead. The world is on it's functioning, but it's on the struggle bus. Most of the characters are depressed and having a bad time. They're trying to put their lives back together. And the Avengers are broken. More broken than they were at the end of Civil War or Ragnarok or anything like that. I also can't believe that Fortnite was actually in the movie. Fortnite, this game that you're seeing right here behind me playing, was actually in the Avengers movie and had a small plot point, because Thor shows up 5 years later, a now somewhat fat, out of shape Thor who drinks all day and is depressed and eats chicken strips, mostly just sits in his house and plays Fortnite and trash talks kids on Xbox Live. Like, I kid you not, it's like, oh, I'm the God of Thunder, I'm gonna come to your house and blow up your mom with lightning, you little blah. And I'm not even joking, like, that's just in the movie, but I thought it was really funny. It fit the character really well. It was a nice bit of humor, and it's a marketing thing. I'm sure Epic paid out the butt with it or maybe they did some sort of cross promotion, but it was interesting. Overall, I think that the fat and depressed Thor was a nice change and a good juxtaposition from his previous sexual objectification, because before that he was like, I'm Chris Hemsworth from Australia. Look at my abs. If I flex my abs any harder, the screen's gonna break. And typically in movies, you see a lot more sexual objectification of women, but Chris Hemsworth had a lot on him over the years, and he had an increasing amount of we'll say body standards. He gets buffer throughout each Thor movie, which I've read that he has a hard time with. In this one, Thor just quits and gets drunk and eats chicken strips and doesn't care. And I thought that was a really fun kind of change. And also, Thor spent most of his time in this movie getting absolutely pummeled. He got his butt handed to him many times, which was a little bit unexpected, because Thor's supposed to be your Hulk busting, possibly the strongest powerhouse kind of guy. But given the context of the story, it does make sense if he hasn't eaten anything but McDonald's, is drunk all day, hasn't exercised, hasn't used magic, hasn't fought anybody in half a decade. Thor is not going to be in his, tip-top kind of shape. So that's what's going on with Thor. There's no Thanos theory going on. The Thanos of Ant-Man going into Thanos' anus and expanding and blowing him up from the butt out is not correct. I don't think that many of you were realistically expecting that to be in the movie. However, I will say, for Ant-Man fans out there, Ant-Man plays an absolutely massive role in the plot of this film and is responsible not only for getting the plot going, the central plot, but largely for the tonal shifts that occur in the film as well. The vast majority of this film is Ant-Man and Tony Stark building a time machine to steal all of the Infinity Stones before Thanos collects them. They want to go to the tiny down quantum realm, go back into the past, steal the stones, bring them back to the future, bring everybody back to life, and then travel back to the past and put them all back in place, because they all believe that you can't change the past. Not like Back to the Future, where you go back and you do something and you change the past and it fixes the future. That's not a part of this. The timelines are fixed, but you can't erase the past, but you can change the future moving. It's complicated, okay? The point of it being that they don't intend to undo the snap. They intend to do it again and just bring people back to life. And it ends up being Ant-Man planning a time heist, the heist of his life, because he's a thief. And the time heist is the biggest part of the movie by far. Most of this movie is various Avengers time traveling to different parts of their lives and decades, or parts of movies that we've seen before. And from a narrative standpoint, this allows for characters to revisit their past actions, to see the impacts that they've had on the lives of others, to reevaluate their decisions, and for some emotional wrap-ups with their personal lives and coming to terms with things that they've struggled with. One thing I think struggled in this movie is the new Hulk. So in this one, Banner and Hulk merged together into one Banner Hulk, which is basically a weaker Hulk, but with Banner's brain mostly in control. And Banner Hulk was really off-putting and creepy in a weird kind of way, and even most of the characters reacted to him as such, as being kind of weird, you know. He also didn't do a whole lot of fighting. He mostly did not fight, and for me that was a little disappointing, because I wanted to see a full rage, maximum strength Hulk fight. Didn't get that. Hulk had other things to do besides fighting. If we're talking about powerful characters, we should talk about Captain Marvel. Oh, so divisive Captain Marvel is between we'll just say Marvel fans in general. In this movie, Captain Marvel is set up to be significantly stronger than Banner Hulk or Fat Thor. I would be remiss to say that Captain Marvel is stronger than full Rage Mode Hulk or in shape, ready to go Thor, but she is definitely the powerhouse in this film, much more so than the other two, probably more than the two of them combined. And what I was afraid they were going to do is have Captain Marvel come in as the ultimate MacGuffin, the Deus Ex Machina, and just save everybody with her ultimate strength, like she's Saitama from One Punch Man. And they did have some moments of her coming in just being very strong and you know, saving the day and doing her thing. But Thanos put her to bed pretty quickly. Thanos wasn't going to put up with any of her crap. So she ultimately wasn't in the film for a whole lot. And I have to be careful when I say this, because Captain Marvel is a very divisive film. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's, you know, you're dealing with female hero tropes and a lot of, we'll say, politics in a film. And I'd like to say that I'm not a woman hater whatsoever. I have no issues with strong women in film. If you want to, my favorite example of a strong woman in film, Ellen Ripley from the Alien series, especially in Aliens. That's how you make a female character. That's perfect. You can't do any better. But what I was afraid of is I was afraid that Marvel movies, now Disney, was going to greatly shift the focus of the entire film onto the new character to focus and build that brand and try and push Captain Marvel, because she is very popular and she's making a lot of money right now. And I know that it was rewritten and refilmed to kind of add her in at various places. And I really was afraid that they're just going to make like, all right, we can make so much money off this. We're going to disregard all the characters that we've been building up for a decade and just pump this Captain Marvel money. No, it wasn't like that. Captain Marvel had a part. She had a role. She played it. It was done. It's relatively minor. And she's kind of set up for other things now. We have a very, very, very big spoiler here. An enormous spoiler. So just keep that in mind. I hope that you're paying attention. Captain America picking up Thor's hammer was awesome. And this is something that I predicted back from Age of Ultron. I think a lot of fans did too. In the final fight with Thanos, things aren't going so hot, and Captain America, Thor gets his ass whooped, let's just be honest. So Captain America picks up Thor's hammer, and he also picks up the Stormbreaker axe for kings because he's worthy now, apparently, or always has been, and just goes to town on Thanos. The section of the hammer-wielding Cap versus Thanos was downright amazing. As super hype in the theater, people were cheering. It was one of the better fights that I've seen in films, especially like CGI-heavy ones, in a long time. And apparently he'd been able to lift the hammer for a long time, but he didn't want people to know. If you look back in Age of Ultron, where they're all partying and they're all like playing games to see who can lift the hammer or whatever, when Captain America does it, he puts his hand on it and he lifts and struggles, and the hammer just kind of budges and just wobbles a little bit, and you can see Thor doing this like surprised Pikachu face as it actually moving. The reality of that scene is that Captain America can lift that hammer as much as he wants, but he didn't want people to know that he could lift the hammer. He didn't want to hurt Thor's feelings, so because of his own humility and thus worthiness, he was able to lift it. And that was a really fun, hype part of the movie. On the topic of fighting, I do find it weird that Thanos was much more dangerous without the gauntlet than with it. Thanos just shows up in his normal physical form in this one, no gauntlet, and just ready to throw down and fight people, and he is a beast. He is an absolute force to be reckoned with, and I think that's probably because in the MCU, film-wise, not comics, he has to snap or make a fist or a beam, or he has to do something with his hand to kind of work that gauntlet to focus the stones. And when he had the gauntlet, he didn't really focus on fighting people. He just trying to like gauntlet power, erase you, reality stone, time stone, laser beams, something, you know, instead of actually fighting. So most of the characters fight really hard to keep his hand from moving, which kind of keeps him gimped, and he's just focusing on freeing up his hand. Well, when his hands are free and he's armed with a weapon of choice and just is ready to fight you, Thanos is incredibly dangerous. Just like, he was an awesome boss. However, emotionally speaking, character development-wise, Thanos played a much tinier and less impactful role in Endgame, which was a little bit disappointing, because Infinity War was basically Thanos the movie. Thanos was the most emotionally engaging character in that film, where he was just kind of a bad guy in this one. But I think that's kind of the idea, is you build Thanos' backstory and then you show what happens. And biggest spoiler of all here, the end of the film results in the death or permanent retirement of a lot of the main Avengers, and it kind of has to. The actors that play the Avengers are getting older, they're getting uninterested in these types of roles, they want to do more dramatic works, they want to direct, they want to retire from acting, their contracts are expiring, their contracts are getting more expensive as these films start making more money, the universe is expanding, and getting older, that means they also literally can't be making cameos and little like time cameos and stuff without CGI and makeup and whatever. So Marvel, Disney, Fox, corporate conglomerate thing, whatever company you want to call it now, plans to greatly expand the MCU in Phase 4. So this ending of a lot of characters and passing on the baton to the new set of Avengers and the new heroes and the expanding team is necessary. I know they have a lot of new plans, and this is sort of the building block for those. The new heroes are going to have to pick up where the old legends died off and keep on fighting and living and working in their memory, or perhaps for their own. Perhaps they'll kind of carve their own destiny. Overall, I'm very satisfied with how the movie wrapped up, with the ending, with the... It was a very satisfying conclusion in a lot of ways for a lot of characters, and I don't think it could have ended much better than how it did. The overall score for this movie is, I'm not doing scores. I'm not giving you numbers or stars or thumbs up or down. You can give a thumbs up on this YouTube video if you want to, because that basically determines my income. Yay, YouTube algorithms, right? But make up your own mind. Watch the movie, make up your own mind. You can watch this review and tell me how you think, how you feel about it. Careful in the comments. There'll be more spoilers than what I had. And I hope you enjoyed this kind of discussion. If you do enjoy this kind of film discussion, I've been thinking about expanding it with my ever-expanding content, trying to do some sort of different non-gaming things. If you want me to talk more about films, let me know. Or if not, just subscribe and keep watching the gameplay videos. Drifter out.